Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to Critically Drinking. I'm your host, Rashawn. Now listen, I do have a special guest here with me, but I do wanted to greet the chat. Risa Neal was in the building first and foremost. Good evening to you, lady. We've got Inay Neal. Doing what it's still. Come on, StreamYard. Don't do this to me now. Okay. All right. I probably just did like a time skip. Give me a second. I know what happened last time. I needed to change my setting in Windows. Give me a second. It was on Windows mode, and to stream, I need to be in performance mode. So if I'm glitching, give me a moment. All right. So give me a moment to see if I can sort this out, because it looks like. All right. Okay. All right. Looks like I'm caught up. Woo, video and audio doing something. New growth. And we got, I think that was Yella. I thought I saw Yella. Still acting up. I'm not sure what's happening. Give me a second, everybody. Okay. I'm not sure what's happening. Internet. What is happening? What is happening? Okay. It looks like it just did something weird. Okay. While it looks like it's moving, I think it's moving. All right, listen. I am going to go ahead and bring in my guest while I can. I don't know what's happening. So I first saw this person, of course, in the chat. We all met a lot of us in the WeBees in the chat. But New Growth also did a series on Paper Thin, inspired by Inay Neal. I thought it was excellent. So I definitely always wanted to do something, but I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. So I wanted to introduce this topic because Dadication is a play on words from obviously a dad and dedication. Dedication is a series that New Growth also did. So I also took inspiration from him as well, because dedication is something that I do believe is necessary in our fathers, and I do think that's something that's been missing. But we're going to talk about fatherhood from a few different zones today. And I found out one of his numbers is 5. So we're actually going to bring in 5 different father concepts, and then we're going to bring that back with 5 talking points later that we're going to discuss. So with no further ado, we are going to bring Black Hearted with New Growth, Old Soul in the building. Welcome, sir. How you doing?
Peace, everybody.
Hey,
Yeah.
yeah. So I do believe I do see something different about you, sir. I do see
Uh.
something different.
Yeah.
Okay, I see you with the
Yeah.
cut. I see you with the cut. It looks nice. Looks nice.
I had to really make the new growth come grow. So,
So if you don't mind me asking, what prompted this change? And hello, Don Frank. I see you.
just a change, just getting tired of twisting it, and people's like, "What you look like with your hair?" My daughters is like, "What your hair?" So, and then career wise, it's time for a change. It's time for new growth.
Time for a change. There's always room for a change. Oh, so it's absolutely awesome. Yes, yes. Wow. Love it. She loves it and they loves it. Yeah, it does look good on you, sir. Frames the face well.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, but listen, I do wanted to thank you again for first being here. For thank you for deciding to do this. But I do want to ask you a couple like familiarity questions. I believe I picked this up during I was watching your content. But if you don't mind for the people, because you do have the moniker Black Hearted with New Growth, Old Soul. So I wanted to break that into components. The Black Heart. Now, of course, that has a negative connotation to a lot of people today.
Right.
But what does that mean to you in your name?
Just the opposite, right? So it's black love to me. On YouTube and on social media, it's like the heart means love, like. So, black hearted. I said, oh, that's fly. So let me just run with
Yeah.
that. But I like how it feels too. And I've seen a lot of people putting the emojis up a lot. People was putting the black heart,
Oh,
and I was like,
yeah.
oh, I like that. So I wanted people to look at it and see something negative, but once they dive into it, they understand it's about positive.
Nah, I thought it was once I got it, I was like, oh, okay. I see what he's going for. That's dope. And
Kind
the
of like,
new growth,
I
I'm assuming.
was trying to be like critically drinking, right? I was like, I'm not that fly yet, but forgive me, brother, forgive me.
Nah, man, you are always already there, man. Especially, and plus you an East Coaster, man. Y'all got that fly in y'all. I don't know if it's in the water system, but there's something on the East Coast, man. The water system, all of y'all fly. The witticisms, the way y'all wordplay. Like there's a whole the whole East Coast, man. I don't know how it happened. I don't know what if it was in the tea from the Tea
Right.
Party in the water system. There's something about the East Coast. Ain't nothing
East
like it in the rest of America, man. But I know you got the new growth in your moniker as well. New growth. Was that simply because of the locks, or did that stem from something else?
It was the locks, and it was just like a play on words once again. I'm gonna let everybody know since the day's over. I used to want to be a rapper, right? So always metaphor. Rappers about metaphors and slang and making people look at things from a different way and just So it was just like new growth. I know it was a real black conscious thing with the NU, right? So with the growth, it was like just life in general, and it just so happened to fit that my locks was there. So I was like, okay. So I just played with it, just whatever feels right, So it just felt right. Um, I took it from there. And the
Yeah,
old
that's
soul
dope.
is like the old soul came from just the spirit. I used to hang underneath the elders, And when I
Yeah.
was younger, everybody said, "Man, you act older, right? You act, you have a wise mind. That's because I took things that most people, overlook. So a lot of that came from just being around the older uncles and aunts and just soaking it in as a child and developing it.
Yeah, you can definitely tell when I watched the videos, the content, a lot of thoughtful think pieces, a lot of literature. So you definitely would skew a little older, even if nothing else, because you're such an avid reader. Like if
Right.
nothing else, that's going to mature your thought process. So definitely, I've enjoyed everything I've listened to. We got someone new here. We got Shaquifa Jackson in the building. Hello, nice to meet you. Good to see you. Hopefully, you might be coming over from New Growth, but definitely good to see you.
I'm sorry,
I
Miss
hope you're having a
Jackson.
wonderful evening. Ooh, I am for real.
Hey
But
man,
I
I'm
did
a
want
hip
to
hop
ask.
historian, man. I live, eat, sleep hip hop. So anybody want to test me, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. When I was checking your videos out, you had a lot of references. Like every
Yeah,
single one had at least probably 2 references.
yeah,
At least. At
yeah,
least. So definitely I enjoyed the content. Hopefully you'll have another series soon. But I also like the way
yeah.
you break them
Soon,
up in a
right,
digestible point. I really enjoy that.
right.
Inya, who is always she's a moderator over here. I don't see her today, but she does a blog. And I want
Mm-hmm.
to ask everybody just to get us started today. And I'm gonna ask you, New Growth, everybody in the chat, what is your tagline? And so like Nike's tagline is just do it. So that's like a common one. So
Mm-hmm.
what is a tagline? Give yourself a tagline, New Growth, and everybody in the chat, give yourself a tagline.
Well, for my channel, and this was kind of me. It's like, where change is
I love
valued
it.
more than dollars, right? That's
Yeah.
play on words again. Just so
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of me. But
Yeah,
change is worth
change
more
is
than
more
dollars.
valuable than dollars.
Yeah,
I
so
love it.
I
Beef it and
sacrificed a lot of
queef it.
money in my lifetime, right? For that
Yeah.
change, though, I wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
trade it in. So
Yeah. I love that when you said that change is more valuable than dollars, man. I was like, man, there's nothing sure. I know there's a lot of emphasis on finance and economics and people getting the bag, but I'm like, man, I don't think there's anything more valuable than changing like the internal change. Like, I don't think there's anything more valuable than that growth and evolution. I mean, people like money, but I'm like, whoo, when I had money, I saw how it made some things easier, but it didn't change anything I was feeling. You know what I'm
right,
saying? Like the internal stuff didn't change any of that.
right.
When life gives you lemons, make coffee. Okay, okay, all right. And hey, Kawhi Bree, good to see you. Right now, we are asking everybody to give us their tagline, like Nike's "Just Do It." New Growth gave us his "Keep It Cute." Oh, Don Frank, peacefully loud. I like it. I like it. Man, I just wanted to see what people come up when she did that writing prompt. Enya had a writing prompt on her blog, and I was like, wow, that's really interesting. I couldn't come up with anything clever, which is, I was disappointed in myself. But I realized it's probably something I'm overthinking. It's probably something I'm overthinking. So I know I
You
have
probably
so
already
many from
got
so
some.
many different. I say stuff like I say stuff all the time, but then all of a sudden when I tried to apply it to me, it was
Mm-hmm.
like a blank. I'm still having a blank. I know I could probably just say something off the top of my head, but it's like for some reason with this one, I'm gonna have to do some thinking about that because like I
How
got a
about
mental
this?
block on this one.
Complex in a simple way.
Complex in a simple way. I like that. I do like that. Mine would be Anania.
Gentle
Gentle
peace. Look, there you go.
peace. I don't know what's wrong with me either. Man, y'all got some good ones. I like the one New Growth. Oh no, Bree, niggly, niggly, niggly. I can't stand you. I can't stand you. Niggly negging, niggly negging, niggly negging. I like it too. I like it too. But simply complex or complex simply, I like that. I like that. So everybody, I really appreciate y'all for being here today as we have New Growth in the building, and we are talking about dedicated. We're dedicating this to fatherhood. To be dedicated is to be devoted to a task or purpose, having single-minded loyalty or integrity. As far as dedication, because that's a series that you did, and we're talking about, I believe dedication is something that fathers need to exemplify. That's something fathers need to embody. I am not a father myself, but tell me what both fatherhood and dedication, how that marries in your mind.
Yeah, so the dedication, just giving props. Nipsey Hussle, Kendrick Lamar. I always try to start it off with a riddle, like who had this song. So, but that's where I got it from. So the dedication, and I just love that and what they were talking about. But dedication and fatherhood, like, I don't know if all y'all know this, but I don't like to say this a lot, but my daughters are adopted, so they didn't necessarily come from my seed, right? Me and my wife. So, but I think it embodies the same type of thing. I think like us, like you said, dads, so men in the community, like they say, a village takes to raise a kid. But I just realized once I had those kids, and what I see it as is once you have kids, you are willing to lay down your life for your immortality. I always looked at kids as your immortality, as your ability to live on once you're gone, you know? So dedication means doing and taking every risk possible for your family and your children. And even if you never hit that climax or that peak that you expected, you still are leaving that legacy, that piece of something that they will take on to the next level in life. So kind of like like James Evans, right? I always watch Good Times. I hope I'm not the only old one in here that used to remember Good Times, but I remember how he would do every single thing possible for his family, and it was just like that was dedication to me. Even though it was never easy, right?
Mm-hmm. I like that too, because it brought me back to something you said in dedication, which I thought was, man, because you dropped some gems. Man, please go check out New Growth's channel. He has some gems in his videos, and he keeps them short. He doesn't do 2, 3, 4, 5 hour live streams like I do. You can get in there, get some jewels, and get out. So definitely check him out. But you said something about dedication doesn't start until it gets tough. Dedication doesn't start until you run across obstacles, because it's not dedication if there's no challenge. So when I heard, I was like, God, man, he right. You know, there's an old line, like everybody's got a plan until they get hit in the mouth. Right. I was like, woo, man.
Right.
James Evans is the epitome of the greatest example of a dad. And sometimes that's important. Even in the hard times, not walking away or shutting down because things got challenging. So I think that's a good example. I do have a video I want to bring in. We are going to start with somebody that, you know, I like to bring this guy up every now and then. We are going to start with some Jordan Peterson. Oh yeah, and shout out to you also as far as being an adopted father. That's a topic we're going to talk about a little bit later. But shout out to you, salute to you for being a father in the place of somebody's biological. So and taking on that role. So that kind of dedication is needed, I believe. And so congratulations to you, and thank you to you for being one of those people. Like I'm one of those people that fell through my father didn't, and nobody else did either. You know what I'm saying? So I live the opposite. Right. I'm one of those people that never got that. So I'm thankful that you were in somebody's life in that way. So again, thank you.
Appreciate that, bro.
Stepdads and adoptive fathers are more respectable in my view. They aren't compelled by law, but they still do the word. Facts. He was in the hospital in real life. I hope he is well. Oh, James Evans. Blessings. Von Eric is in the building. Appreciate you. Thank you for coming.
Oh boy, Von Eric, what's up?
Yeah, Von Eric in the building. I'm gonna play this video. Is about, I want to say 5 minutes in length. We're gonna play this and then discuss it. And again, we have about 5 segments that we're going to talk about that are started with the video. Then we're going to have 5 talking points behind that. But let's get into this very first one from my guy, Jordan Peterson.
What kind of relationship do you have with your father? Your real father. It's often ambivalent, right? Because there is an element of him that encouraged you, hopefully, because without the encouragement of your father, man, the world is a dismal place. It's very difficult to be a courageous person unless you have your father in body and spirit behind you. It's very demoralizing. Like, it really kills people not to have their mother. They just don't recover from that. And I think people can recover from a fragmented father relationship, but it's the next worst thing. You know, because if your father rejects you or doesn't form a relationship with you, it's as if the spirit of civilization has left you outside the walls as of little worth. It's very difficult for people to recover from that. So the father should be an encouraging force, but can be a tyrannical and crushing force. And so that's a very difficult thing to get right, partly because if you're my son, then I should impose the highest standards of behavior on you. And I should always be judging what you're doing. I should be judging it with the aim of making the best in you come forward. But getting that balance exactly right is very difficult. And so it's easy for a father to swing too much into judgment, let's say. And then, of course, mothers can play this role too. To swing too far into the domain of judgment and to be too harsh. And to the degree that the father has his own pathologies, he's going to do that imperfectly. You know, he might be someone who's the father who devours his son because he's jealous of the new possibility, the new potential, the struggle for attention and love from the mother or from the other children in the family. There's all sorts of things that can go terribly wrong. So that's the father as wise king, and that's another symbol that's been lost, I would say, to a massive degree in modern universities, because all we're taught is to tear that down and to not even notice that it manifests itself everywhere, especially in the universities, which are like they're as close to an ideal environment as as human beings have ever been able to create. It's as simple as that. And if you can't be grateful for the structure of the university with all its imperfections, then you're completely blind to this element of the archetype. And that's the opposite of it. That's the son that devours, the king that devours his own son. That's a tyrant. You know, that's like the mother who's too overprotective. It's the male version of that. And the mother that's too overprotective says, I'll never let anything happen to you. It's like, well, maybe you actually want to have something happen to you. You know, it's a bit of an all-inclusive statement. It's like, no, I'm going to make you strong so any number of things can happen to you. And when you need some care, I'll be there. But otherwise, like out into the world with you, that's the right attitude. And for the father, it's like, get your bloody act together. But I'm on your side. It's not because I want to destroy you or demean you or push you down in the dominance hierarchy, but because I want the best in you to emerge. And so you need standards. It's like, what are you doing wasting your life? There's way more than that to you. Get your act together and bring it out. And that's a message that people really want to hear if they have any sense at all. And generally they do want to hear it. So, you know, I've been talking to a lot of people recently, as perhaps you know, and I was talking to one of the leaders of the Conservatives this morning. And they're asking me about, the person was asking me about Bill C-16, but more specifically about talking to young people, because the Conservative leadership struggle is going on right now. I've been talking to a bunch of them, and I said, well, look, one of the things you could do for young people that no one's doing is to talk to them about responsibility. Because everyone talks to young people about rights. It's like, we need our rights. It's like, oh God, how many rights do you need? You know, really, like you have more privileges than any people who've ever lived anywhere. Well, it's so dull to hear that. It's so dull. It's so pathetic and what would you call it? It's so demeaning that you have to be protected and have your rights. It's like I said, there's a huge marketplace for responsibility. That's what you want to talk to young people about. It's like, get your act together and do something worthwhile with your life. For the first time in my entire adult life, the Conservatives actually have something to sell young people, right? They can sell them responsibility. It's like, well, why? Because that's where life has meaning with responsibility. The more responsibility you take on, the more meaning your life has. And the higher degree of responsibility that you agree voluntarily to try to bear, the richer your life will be. And no one's ever told that, and it's the case. You know, it's like you have 4 kids, say. Well, that's plenty of responsibility. You're going to have meaning. It's going to be rough, you know, because it's complicated. You have a complicated job, and you try to help the careers of the people around you. You try to solve tough problems and aid suffering and do all of that. It's like, it's weight, it's responsibility, but there's glory in it. There's real glory in it. There's deep meaning in it. And young people are starving for that because no one ever tells them that. It's like, you're way more than you think, man. Stand up, do something difficult. Do something difficult and heroic, right? Burst out of your bonds. It's like, that's a good message. It's a necessary message, because we have to be more than we are, because if we aren't, we're not going to survive.
Mute.
Appreciate you both, Quantum and Danny Anthony, for being in the building. Thank you for the tip, New Growth. I was saying, do something meaningful and heroic. Do something that's essential. He said it's a necessary message. I thought that was a really profound statement, because I think a lot of young people are not receiving that. I think a lot of young people, I don't think we've taught them that. Maybe we haven't learned it ourselves to pass that on to the next generation. But I want to jump in with you. What did you think of that clip? Did anything stand out to you in specific?
First of all, bro, where do you find these? Man, you are the boss of finding these clips that fit the subject perfectly. That's crazy. But that was so powerful, man. And it either confirms what you already know, or kicks you in the butt and say, wow, this is what I needed to hear. I just don't want to accept it. Because in a sense of like dedication, sometimes only thing that can really bring that out of a lot of us is that child. Because sometimes when we're living for ourselves, it's like, hey, I'm good. You know what I'm saying? We can be selfish. We can be this. But when that person looks at you, when that person asks you this, and when that person aspires, you can't tell them, hey, you have to, push them, because you want them to be greater than you are. So to me, he was saying, pay attention to what you're doing. That way you can impart that on your kids. Like, sometimes our society now is so beat up. We're trying to protect our children subconsciously, right? A lot of us, we're protecting our kids before they even experience anything, because we're looking from our eyes and the pain we felt, not realizing that we've overcome it. A lot of us are in positions better than our parents, but we still protecting that kids as if they were in that point. So basically, he's saying what I thought what I was trying to say. A father looks at that kid, maybe not knowing to himself, he's like, you gotta achieve, or I'm gonna die, you gonna die, we gonna die. It's over. So I have to push you harder, right? So if you don't push that kid harder, your mind subconsciously is thinking, we over. We're not gonna last too much longer. We're gonna go extinct. Pretty much.
Yeah, it's definitely something. Our systems are failing us, and our family structures have kind of fallen as well. So like imparting that just naturally, because we've been doing it for so long, it's not instinctual now. It's not a habit to impart that responsibility and why we take on the responsibility. So a lot of people's like, we're trying to live lives of convenience, which means we're trying to pass off responsibility. Like, we made that a habit, like trying to figure out a way to not do something we're responsible for. That's the modern way now. Like, how do I get somebody else to watch these kids? How do I get someone else to wash these dishes? We're trying to offload any labor that we have. So that's what we're practicing. So then how do we turn around after all this time trying to make everything so easy for ourselves to tell our young people, listen, you actually should take on responsibility. You should actually want to do more, like do even more, like to have meaning in your life. Let's do more. How do we sell that? Like, say, how do we even fix our lips to say that? Well, after they've watched us do everything in our power to do less.
Right. That's a good question. That's a good question, man. We just have to become more aware, because at the end of the day, we're the adults, right? So we have to be aware that sometimes easier, like you just said, with the money, it may the perception is easier. I got money now, but it's really not easier, right? Everything holds a certain amount of responsibility and difficulty. Because if, Sean, you got 2-3 million, you got to delegate the money. You got to tell family no, and you got to do this, and that's just as hard, right?
Yeah.
A rapper said this. He said, it would be nice to have more, but I kind of like being poor, right? At least I know what my friends here for. So that's old school, y'all. Look it up. But it kind of like gives you like it's the grass is not always green on the other side.
No, I definitely agree with that. I know a lot of people would not accept readily that responsibility. I think as the adults, as the men in the lives of people, I think it's going to be on us to take responsibility first and lead by the example before we could sell it to the young people. That's how we find meaning. Because I find that a lot of us, and myself included, because I felt judged. I felt judged when Bree said this. Everybody running from responsibility too. I felt like that would have my name on it, but the at was missing, like the at fell off somehow. But I feel like that was directed towards me. A lot of us run from responsibility, myself included. So I know it's really hard to try to sell that. My nephew, trying to impart stuff to him, trying to sell meaning through responsibility. I know that's going to be tough. So I've learned though, like to Jordan Peterson's credit, almost everything valuable in my life came at the tail end of responsibility, including the relationship with my nephew. Like taking that on as like, I'm going to do anything I can for this young person who doesn't have a father in his life. That was probably the greatest path and journey of my entire life. But it was all predicated on the responsibility. I'm going to be dutiful and like honored, duty bound to this young person who needs somebody. Probably the greatest moments in my life came from that. So I do believe, like even secondary to that, all the other parts of my life that were the most, I would say, that gave me the most were when I was giving the most. So it's very paradoxical that you receive the most like internally from when you're giving the most externally, like when you're doing for other people. And it doesn't make sense. It feels counterintuitive. But how has your experience been in that domain? I know you said as far as adoption, like as far as taking on the responsibility, had that play a role in your growth and development? Did that come across as being like the best parts of your life? Like tell me about your journey.
Most definitely. Before we adopted, I was, we were together, we were in love, we've been together for years, right? Everything was good. We had the house, we had a couple dollars in the bank, right? Everything was cool, but it just felt like you said unfulfilled, right? And it was like when they came in, I was reluctant to it at first, right? I was like, and then two, I was like, but all of a sudden that gave me a new life, right? It gave me it's like when I go to work or when I do anything out there, I know I'm representing more than just myself. So I'm just like you. It gave me a fulfillment that I didn't even know that I could. I was searching for something, right? But it wasn't coming with accumulating things, right? Things they didn't carry the same value anymore. But once I did that, it was like, oh man, I gotta get up. I gotta do this. I can't miss a day. I gotta do this. I gotta, because I know they're looking at me. So when I come to them and say integrity, right? When I tell them that's what we live by, when I tell them that, hey, your mantra is to change the statistics, right? Right. And when I get them there, hey, it's a Saturday, but you're gonna do a little hour on it, just do a little reading, do a little this, do a little that. They don't like it. But when they see daddy on this time off and I got a book open, right? Or I'm looking like, daddy, why are you looking at that? Because I'm learning and I'm growing and I'm constantly so I can feed something to you. So now they feel it's becoming a practice thing. So I'm wondering with you, with your nephew, did your ability to take on that responsibility force you to work harder or?
Absolutely. Because he was a young person and I knew all of the troubles that I had in my life, I could clearly see the path of failures, the path of poverty. I could clearly see all of that. I could see how everything is shaping me, even to the negative. I could see all of it. And then I saw this young person who was like bright-eyed and innocent. And I saw that for them. And I could not. And again, I wasn't his guardian, but I was the only guy in his life. So it was like, I have to do anything I can, regardless of what it costs me, to not allow everything that plagued me to plague him, including familial dynamics. He can't experience everything I experienced the way I experienced it. If nothing else, I don't know how he might be broken. I don't know how he might be shaped. I'll do whatever I can to make sure he's not broken in the ways that I was. So that's how it landed on me. And that's like you said, it took me, I ended up reading books. I read books and it changed me. Like I always cite this one book, especially this book called Boundaries. I had to learn because I didn't get it from growing up. I didn't learn that it was okay to say no to people. Like it was honestly, it was a problem if you let people down, if you didn't come through for people, because everybody in the hood was suffering. Everybody, if somebody had to move, they didn't have anybody to help them move. So if you didn't say I'm gonna help you, then it was like 2 to 3 women trying to help somebody move. Or you know what I'm saying? So it was like it was exacerbated problems. Anytime you said no to somebody, you knew they were about to go through something problematic. If you didn't get them that $50, electricity was going to be off. And it was probably going to be off for another week or two. You know what I'm saying? So everything was exacerbated if you said no. And learning that it was okay to say no, it was not your load to carry for everybody else around you, that changed me. And I believe it showed him. One thing I imparted in him was it was okay to say no, even at a young age. Nobody was entitled to his time or his energy or anything he had. So I know I had to grow to help him grow. So that definitely reshaped me.
So that responsibility made you stronger than you ever been.
Absolutely. The only reason I could even do this now is because of this journey I took because of him. Like honestly, I wouldn't have had the courage to get up here, even though people still had to prod me and promote me. I would have never done it. I would have never allowed myself to be put in the position to be on camera if I had not found the strength in dealing with him. None of the other stuff that comes with like streaming, like people like, how do you do some of the stuff you do? I'm like, there are so many things that I've gone through from real life that it's hard for me to take some of this stuff from the internet as seriously as some people do, because my real life had enough real problems, like including my nephew. And like, I know he doesn't like him being talked about.
Right.
But his parenting, the parents that he came from, there was enough problems in that situation alone. The stuff that he went through, that it makes like some of the fake problems. I'm not gonna call them fake. They're real if we feel like they're real. But the things that we're not really going through, like it's not my money, it's not my health.
Right.
The stuff that don't affect my household, it's hard for me to take it as serious because stuff has affected my household. So that's kind of how it reframed my mind, so that I'm not susceptible to some of the social media stuff. I don't know that I could get the big head because I know my real life will always humble me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know if I could ever get a big head because my real life is always going to be like, nah, come on, bro. Like, stop. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, so it's definitely shaped me, man. And I'm thankful for it. I'm thankful for it. I'm going to read this chat because I believe you, Greg Bryant. I believe I'm right here with you. We're in uncharted waters because we have no problems anymore. Our lives have become super simplified. The human inclination towards selfishness has no counterweight. And we got Harris Tribe in the building. Salute to you. And we got Take It Home podcast. Hot duty here. Appreciate you for coming through. And hey, thank you and your family for knowing you were needed and equipped to be their dad. Black-hearted with new growth. Oh, so definitely. That's real. Thank you, Von there. Appreciate you. Harris Tribe. Appreciate y'all. But yeah, this definitely, I don't know. That's what I'm gonna tell you. This is what scares me though. This is what scares me, new growth. The fear and anxiety that I felt for my nephew growing up, the love and deep concern that I had for him. I mean, still, all of those feelings were so strong that it reshaped my life. I wonder though, if it were my own child, would it be even more? You know what I'm saying? Like, could I possibly love and sacrifice more than I, you know what I'm saying? That's what even scares me. Because if there's another level, I mean, because again, I've pushed myself for him in his childhood. I can't imagine how much further if it were my own child. Everybody else talk about the bond of a child. If that were the propulsion, what else would I have been willing to do? So that just is something that always in the back of my head.
Right. And the thing about it is, what's so dope is because both of us, we grew up without our fathers, both of us, right? So it skipped that. Even though they skipped it, the life, the legacy still lives on through us, right? Through the grandfather and the great grandfather. So we still had that in us. So even though we felt a certain way, neglected and this and that, we still wanted. It's still in us. We gonna compensate for what we didn't have, right? And that's what I appreciate about you so much, because when I see you, it's something about you that says, I'm going to stand up for what's right. And a lot of times, you know, God works in his own way, but a lot of times that comes from suffering, right? That comes from not having anybody there. So your nephew was very lucky. And, you know, I seen you on here and I'm like, wow, this dude is not biting his tongue. A lot of people hang around and just bite it. You let it know. And that's what a dad is. That's what a husband is. That's what a brother is. And I really respect that. I told you that before. You know, my YouTube role model now. You don't play no games, man.
I appreciate it. I'm trying to do better about, but this is another thing about, I guess, Dadication. You have to be able to be honest with people if you think not being honest is to their detriment. If not being honest is going to cause them to be harmed, even to harm themselves, and I don't mean like harm like cutting, shooting.
Right.
I mean like it's going to show them in a negative light. Like, man, listen, like even the toilet paper on the back of the shoe. You see somebody walking out the bathroom and they got this, like, why would I let you walk through and continue to be like maybe looked at and laughed at if I could say something and you could correct it? So you have to have a level of courage to be able to say some stuff to some people, especially the people you're closest to.
Yeah.
Especially the people you're close. It's harder. The people you see on a daily, it's even harder to tell them negative feedback. It's hard. And to face that criticism. So I learned that because I had to stand up for my nephew. I had to stand up for my nephew against elders in my family.
Right.
That's where that came from. Like you said, my nephew, I'm lucky to have my nephew because it pulled me out of, because I've said this before when I was talking about the whole Mr. Best thing. I'm a coward. My nature is to pull back from conflict. But because of my nephew, I had to take bullets, not real bullets. I had to stand between him and elders so that I can make sure what happened to me didn't happen to him. So that level of courage to stand up to like my mother, to stand up to my older sister, to be like, no, we can't do this, or no, we can't do that. That was extremely hard. Yeah. So of course now it's easier for me to approach other people because they're not my family. You know, it's not the people I see all the time and the people that could get to me in a heartbeat. So that experience, like you said, that journey, man, it shaped me in ways I could not have expected. And I'm thankful for it. So thankful.
And think about it. Like a lot of us men, our fathers, right? They kind of ran away from that, right? They kind of ran away from that responsibility, which stopped them from becoming the full extent of who they were, which kind of hurt the community, right? Because just imagine if you ran or we ran from certain responsibilities, right? Like they did, it would just hurt our community even more. So that's why I'm really appreciative of guys who stick in it. They may not be the perfect one. They not, we're not the perfect guys. No, I don't like. I think Jordan Peterson said none of us going to be perfect, but we have that fight in us to say, I'm going to fight this whole world to protect what I feel is valuable. And a kid seeing that, even if you're losing, even if daddy's getting knocked down, they seeing that daddy is fighting for me, so I must be somebody, right? And I just think our fathers, that generation kind of like not dropped. I'm not blaming them, but it's kind of like they kind of missed it, right? And that's something they probably gonna regret forever, because if they'd have just stood in there, right? Because just imagine just standing in there and just showing little Arshawn and little New Growth, hey, I ain't the perfect one, but I'm gonna be here. I'm gonna stand in here with you. I might be unemployed, but I'm still. Look how great we became without it, right? So if you dead, just like that, gave us more fight. But yeah, man, I really respect your tenacity though, man.
I appreciate it. Shout out to Nova Rain and Sim Simma who have come in. Sim Simma said you out here looking like you sell number 2 pencils for a living. Sim Simma. His partner come by an hour later selling sharpeners. Hey, bro, I got the sharpeners. Remember, I saw that guy selling pencils, man. I got the sharpeners. Yeah, but man, that's been dope. I do want to bring in the next clip because I thought this was interesting. And as men, I know this is going to land a specific way with us that probably she didn't intend for it to land. But I'm going to play this clip from a recent controversy in Iyanla Van Zandt.
Okay. I too am an alpha woman. So I understand what that means. And I tell people all the time, I was a horrible mother. I was a horrible mother. I was a great father. And I was a horrible mother because I'd never been mothered. So I didn't know how to affirm, how to nurture, how to nourish, how to guide. I knew how to direct, how to demand, how to discipline, and like you said, provide and protect. Those are masculine energies. And the distinction here is men build, women create. So we know how to build. We know how to get to the external and get the work done and drive and push and do it. We don't know how to be still, create it, and allow it to come to us. And I learned that when I lost everything. I learned how to create because I had already built and it all crumbled. The house, the husband, the job, the contracts, the professional career in the world, stripped of it all the attachments, the necessities of life, the creature comforts, until I was stripped down to the bare bone. And then I had to learn how not to build. Build is external, create is internal. And we as women have the power to create and attract anything we desire. But we don't get still. We won't shut up. And we manage everything through fear, control, and survival, as opposed to feeling, knowing, and blooming or flourishing. Complete different thing. But since we've never been trained, we haven't been trained, we haven't been taught. So we do it the way we were taught to do it, which is very masculine in nature.
Now, I wanted to ask you, because she started that off with something that it just caught me off guard the first time I heard it. And shout out to Mrs. She Said, who just came in. Thank you for being here. She said she was a horrible mother, but a great father. Now, how does that phrase right there? And I wanted to allow it to play out so you got more context to how she meant it. But I was a horrible mother and a great father. How does that land on to you, to your ears?
It makes perfect sense because it's a I know a lot of dads are horrible fathers, but great mothers, right? they give their daughters whatever they want, right? They give so I can fully understand it because I think we overcompensate, right? We overcompensate and figure that this is what that other side will provide. So I have to give twice that much because I'm the mother and the father, or vice versa. But it makes perfect sense. My mother was a horrible mother, right? I always she was a great discipline. She kept me focused, right? My grandmother to me was always my mother, right? So my mother doesn't really understand it. Because she was fearful, like she said. She was fearful of me in the era of when the murder rate was high in my city and everybody was getting victimized. I was stuck in the church. You can't go nowhere but the church. You can't do this, you do that, right? Boom, boom, boom. No girlfriend. You can't have a girlfriend, such and such, right? So it was like, don't bring no babies home. It wasn't you go out there and be great, like Jordan Peterson said. It didn't say you go out here and change the world. It was don't bring no babies home. Don't you get out there with them boys. Don't have me in the jail cell, right? So to me, that was her compensating, thinking that's what a father would tell you to do, right? But she was totally wrong. So I see where she came from. I don't hold any resentment, but that was a perfect statement. I think a lot of women in the 80s babies, the generation, what are we? Generation X, a lot of mothers was like that because a lot of the fathers were incarcerated or on the drugs, and the mothers felt they had to do way more than they probably even knew they were capable of doing. So I totally agree with her.
I hear what you're saying. And Quantum calling me out here. It's just the terms of mother and father that people get stuck on. Yeah, because I had a problem hearing that a horrible mother equates to a great father. That was a problem for me. But everything that she said subsequently explained her position. That's why I wanted to include it, to not try to shade it a different way. Because she did mean that she took on the aspects that are typically ascribed to masculinity. The provision, the protection, the direction, the demand, the discipline. I get it. I get it, Quantum. I was, but I know when I first, I was a horrible mother, but I was a great. No, you weren't a father at all. But I'm with you, Quantum. I know I was being petty and pedantic. I don't think provider isn't as important to being a father as we assume. It may not be. I mean, because what does provider mean beside the basic necessities? Provider means something different in everybody's head. We have a lot of first world thinking now. So provider now sometimes means the luxuries as well. So,
And providing, a lot of people assume that providing means strictly financial, right?
right.
It can be protection, it could be guidance, it could be discipline, it could be providing, and those everybody provides in a certain way, but I think we're kind of stuck on like bring home the bacon, and like you said, we're in a different world now, so the roles are slightly changing, but at the heart of it, I think it's still kind of the same. Like you said, you had to fight with your mother and your aunts. Why? Because you seen things from a masculine point of view that they couldn't possibly see. They're going to do what's natural to them, and you're going to do, hey, he's coming down the road that I already been through. I know what I got to do. I'm not going to. So that's what I mean. Provide. That could be a way of providing as well, in my opinion.
Quick second. Sorry, I was trying to bring this video in. I absolutely agree with you. There's more provision than just money, and I think a lot of people lose sight of that. I think a lot of people lose sight of that. You need to provide, especially if you're a single parent, like what she was talking about. I was a horrible mother, but I was a great father. You have to provide more than just a food, a house, and clothing. You have to provide instruction. You have to provide structure. There's a lot of things that you have to provide outside of just the money and the means. Nurturing is great. That's helpful. But there's a lot of things I believe, especially young men. I think young women need it too, that I believe you are probably only going to get from the opposite gender. Like, I do believe that men and women serve different functions, and not having both of them as examples as you're coming up, I believe it does create a deficiency. How that deficiency is going to manifest, I don't know. It could be you don't have a sense of self. If you never saw a man be a man in the family, how would you know how to be a man? Like, if you had no examples, what does a man do? How does a man talk? How does a man address grievances? How does a man handle complications? If you don't have that example, what are you providing? I mean, you might be providing the things, but there are intangible needs that every person who's growing has to have to properly form to become an adult. And an example is one. Otherwise, you're going to make it up. You're going to get things from television. You're going to get things from music. You're going to get things from all these other places, which may not have the best examples for you. So that's definitely a gap that a lot of people ignore.
Okay. And that video, I think at the 5-minute mark, I think the other sister, she said something very important about that, right? Because she said she grew up with her mother, and her father wasn't around, and she got to a point. Sorry about that. Sorry about that. She got to
that was my internet again.
She got to a point. She said she got to a point where she got tired of looking for provision from men and from such and such, and it was like, that was interesting to me, because if you already knew how to do it, why were you looking for it? And have you found it? And right. So we all know innately it's something like, I don't know, it's society, but I know I can't survive. There's certain things that a woman has that I need to have in my life and in the life of my daughters. It's like my oldest daughter is going through her little switch, right? That's something I can't. I mean, I can fake it. I can sit there and try to say, like you said, what I seen on TV, what I read in the book, but somebody who experienced it is something we gotta stop discrediting. Like, technology is not gonna take the place of what we are ordained to do, and just things that are innate in us. So,
no, I definitely agree. There are things that we can only get from somebody that understands our experience, and sometimes that's gender related. Sometimes that just has to be the case. So I don't think there's a way around that. So no matter how good of a dad you think you were, ladies, you were a mom. You just were a mom in a different domain, which is okay. I'm not shading that. It's just that's just me again. That word choice. But I do want to bring in this next video because this is something I think this is a great example of a dad being present, because you have to be present to do all the other stuff. You have to be present to provide. You have to be present to protect. Presence is very important. Like Greg Bryan is saying, a man's biggest measurement is, do you show up? You have to show up to do anything beyond that. So I want to bring in this next video. B9 is in the building. Hello, sir. I think I already read that. Yeah. Parents should cover only one role. That's true. Assuming that one parent should cover only one role. I believe everybody covers it. It just looks different. I believe that I think men and women provide, men and women protect. The way we look, what we provide, what we protect, it just looks different based upon how we are groomed into our gender roles and identities. But they're not necessarily, we don't have to conform to that. Any way that we just need to provide for the kid in a holistic way. Body, mind, spirit, all that good stuff. My dad was one of the greatest examples of a man for me. That's what's up.
Think you could beat her?
I know I can beat her.
You know you can beat her. Very confident.
I'm very confident.
You say it so easily. Why?
Because I believe it.
Cut right here, if you don't mind. And let me tell you what. What she said it with so much confidence the first time. But if you keep going on and on,
Listen, we can't keep interrupting. I mean, if you want...
you got to understand that you're dealing with an image of a 14-year-old child. And this child gonna be out there playing when your old ass and me gonna be in the grave. When she says something, we done told you what's happening. You're dealing with a little black kid, and let her be a kid. She done answered it with a lot of confidence. Leave that alone.
What do you feel inside when you're on the court?
I feel good. I feel good.
Yeah, that was cool seeing him step up. You have to be present to even be able to step up. You have to be present. So being present for all of your child's moments is so important, because you never know. It might be a teacher. It might be anybody. You don't know who's going to try to instill doubt, who's going to try to tamp down their courage, tamp down their confidence, tamp down their identity. You never know who's going to be the person to try to shut down a part of your child. So definitely, but Negro, what did you think of that clip and that role of a father to be there to speak for the people that don't know how to speak up for themselves?
Oh man, I just think it's an innate, like kind of like a lion when they see or somebody around their cubs. It's just like you just go into fight mode. I'm gonna give you an example. My youngest daughter had a birthday recently, and I wanted to take them out, get their nails done, right. So I took them to, and there was a particular, I'm not even gonna go into what race it was, but the nail salon, we can assume. But went in there and they were speaking in another language, right? So my oldest daughter, she's a beautiful dark-skinned girl, right? And then, a lot of times society doesn't understand the beauty in her. And I tell her that's okay. You know what I'm saying? All you need is one to understand. Well, me and your mama know, your sister know, you need to know. And the world gonna see that. But she's at a vulnerable stage now. She's growing up. So she went in there, and the lady was speaking in another language and pointed at my daughter, right? And it was other Asians, and they pointed at her and they started laughing, and they was talking, and I didn't know what they were saying. Arshawn, when I tell you, I was ready to turn over every table in that thing.
Yeah.
And the look in her face when she said that, when she saw my reaction and how it was like she went to the back room. They went to the back room. I had to calm myself because I realized my daughters was right there. But it's just the feeling that comes over you, just like the one he just had. It's like you're dealing with an 11-year-old black girl, right? You need to control yourself as an adult. I'm not going to allow you, because sometimes we allow certain things to happen and we don't understand that. Like you seen Venus back there looking. She was looking and she knew I'm protected, and she sees that, and that goes in her Rolodex. So that gave them the confidence to go out there and play when they used to call them names in the tennis tournaments. To go out there when they made, because they knew who they were, and that father, the strongest person in their life, reaffirmed that. But oh man, that is like, I think it's innate. I think It's just something that a father's love or a mother's love, it's just innate. It's like a protective spirit. So I really was moved by that, right? What about
It's
yourself?
definitely one. I definitely think it's one of the great moments in Black TV dad history. Like I think it's one of those good moments, man, because it was real and it was authentic. And I think we have a history in the United States of people trying to police our thoughts and our emotions. So if you feel like if you feel too low, if you speak too low or humbly of yourself, people try to, oh no, don't be like that. No, you're beautiful or you're smart. Everybody tries to pull you up out of the place where you are. And if you feel too confident, the opposite is also true. If you're confident, why are you so confident? What you don't think you could possibly lose? So then we try to bring those people down. So no matter where people are, we try to take it upon ourselves to try to bring them to where we think they should be in their thoughts and feelings, even though we don't have to live with that. In that moment, he's like, well, why? He's questioning her confidence, but why? And we have to sometimes why are we so comfortable questioning other people's existence or how they feel or what they're doing? We feel very comfortable intruding on the thought life of other people. And I think that's a problem. And I'm glad he was able to step in and no, because that seed of doubt at a young age that can follow you for the rest of your life. Some of these things at a young age, I think everybody in the chat, there's probably a teacher, a school bully, a neighbor, a sibling, a mom or dad that said one word or one phrase to us that we have embedded in our minds that we will never be able to shake because they said something to us about our appearance, about our competence. They said something, you'll never make anything, or you're going to be just like so-and-so. Everybody has at least one person that says something between the ages of probably 7 and 14 that is seared in our minds. And that's why it's so important to try to build a family that can be present so that you can guard against that. Because it will, people are in therapy paying hundreds of dollars a week to get over to something.
Right.
Yeah. To that point where I was in a chair, my dad wasn't there, and this guy I was getting interviewed by just kept belligerent, telling me I shouldn't be that confident, and why do I think I can beat her, and I shouldn't beat that. And if the dad wasn't there, we don't know how that would have shaped up, because even when Richard stepped up, the guy pushed back, like you're not going to keep interrupting me. Right. So to think that he's allowed to dominate somebody else's child because of his job as an interviewer, how much further would he have gone through? How much further would he have pushed if the father wasn't there?
And it's crazy you say that, because Richard Williams has a book called Black and White, and he speaks about when he was young in Shreveport, Louisiana, and his father wasn't in his life. And one time, I think he called the white man by his first name, and the town was going to jump, and his dad was out there, and his dad walked away as they attacked him, right? So it's crazy because it goes back to what we were saying earlier about how when you miss that generation, it kind of comes out stronger. So I'm starting to realize that us, the guys who miss the fathers, who are aware and conscious, sometimes make the best fathers, because we're trying to right that wrong and steady that boat and put it on the right path. So that's what a lot of that came from, a man without a father, right?
Yeah.
So
there's something to that, because that reminds me, what you said reminds me of, and shout out to Brother Clarence and Vaughn Bryan who just checked in. I appreciate both of you gentlemen. He said, why didn't I think there's new growth on his own show? Brilliant, Rashad. We got to get we got to get the new growth, man. We got to get him out here, man. We got to get him out here. He quit making the videos for us. We got to bring him out. We got to put him on our live streams. But I think it's important. And I lost the thought just that quick, but I do think it's important for fathers to step in. Oh, as I was saying, the third generation, it reminded me of third generation businesses, because if you're comfortable, even in our on a micro level, our individual lives, if you get used to something, you start to take it for granted. So if you have fatherhood as a prerequisite, like it's already built, you have fatherhood, you can start to take fathers for granted. You have mothers around. You could take anything you have persistently, even generationally or on a macro level, people start to take things for granted as if they always have to be there. I think that's what happened with fathers in the home and mothers being a semblance of decency. We assumed mothers would always be decent women. Like, and now we're saying, oh, well, no, now girls as players too. Like, we're seeing a shift because we made assumptions about how women were because we took their freedom for granted. Now that they have choices, they can choose whatever they want. And sometimes they're going to choose the same things that free men chose. Some of us chose to do the wrong thing. So why wouldn't women choose to do the wrong thing sometimes too? So I think that there's another quote, and I'm tying all these quotes together. The cost of freedom is eternal vigilance. The price of freedom is eternal vigilance. I can't even remember who said it. But we have quit being vigilant in our families. We've quit being vigilant as individuals. If we're free and we're making our own choices, we have to pay attention to what we're doing, what we're saying, how we're shaping the next generation. And I think we've lost that. And I think that's why so many fathers were feeling okay to walk away because maybe they had it and they took it for granted. Mm-hmm. And now we're like, man, I didn't have a father. I want to be there so that nobody feels the way I felt. I think those are the decent stand-up guys who are like, I don't want anybody to feel the way I felt. I don't want anybody to feel alone, abandoned, unwanted, unloved the way I felt. So I think a lot of us internalize that. But I don't think that's everybody. But I think that's a better place than taking it for granted and walking away. Which, unfortunately, far too many people still feel like that's okay to create a life and walk away from it. I do want to talk about that, though. I do have a clip. Now, listen, y'all. The clip I'm about to play has some inflammatory individuals in it. If you are a liberal-leaning person, the names and faces you're about to see might trigger you just a little bit. But listen for the message. Listen for the message, not the messenger, okay? It was Thomas Jefferson. Thank you. Thank you. I should have known Greg Bryan would know. Now, listen. Again, don't jump off the stream as soon as you see this first face and hear the first voice, okay?
The biggest issue facing Black America is father absence. We have children that are growing up without their fathers in the home, and that is being incentivized by the government right now via the welfare system. When the government says we'll give you more money if you don't marry the father of your children, you are incentivizing bad behavior in our community. What happens when you remove a father from the home? This is why I do not mess with feminism at all. I'm not with it. This breakdown and mocking masculinity, making it seem like there's something wrong to be a man, all of this contributes to the breakdown of family.
Tupac Shakur, the late rapper, once said, "I know for a fact that had I had a father, I'd have some discipline, I'd have more confidence." He admitted he began running with gangs because he wanted the things a father gives to a child, especially to a boy: structure and protection. "Your mother cannot calm you down the way a man can," Shakur said. "You need a man to teach you how to be a man." Children who grow up without a father are 5 times more likely to live in poverty and commit crime, 9 times more likely to drop out of school, and 20 times more likely to end up in prison. The Journal of Research on Adolescence confirms that even after controlling for varying levels of household income, kids in father-absent homes are more likely to end up in jail. And kids who never had a father in the house are the most likely to wind up behind bars. In 1960, 5% of America's children entered the world without a mother and father married to each other. By 1980, it was 18%. By 2000, it had risen to 33%, and 15 years later, the number reached 41%. Fathers matter. Until we have a government policy that makes that its first priority, nothing will change.
Yeah, so there was some big points in there, but I do want to read this comment. "That doubt from our youth sticks like a footprint in wet concrete. We can pour over it and get thicker skin, but deep down there'll always be a broken layer. All we can do is pour better for others." I like the way you phrased it. That was very eloquent and literary. I like it. I do think when I heard dear Sister Candace, and Brother Larry Elder talking about the Black community, and I know this isn't anything that's specific to the Black community. They were just speaking on the Black community because of political reasons, but this is something that's happening in America. It's just even more disparate, or however you phrase that word. It's more disparate in Black communities. But the people that are growing up without fathers, and I'm even going to bake in the fact that I know it's about a third of couples in the Black community, I'm going to say essentially, are married. A third of couples are unmarried, but possibly cohabitating. And then that last third is the group that's a single parent household, 80% of which are led by mothers. So with that, I'm baking in that I understand the full third are, even though they're unwed, the fathers are still in the lives. I'm willing to bake that in. But I do want to say, though, even a third of the population growing up without fathers, based upon the stats that they gave, and everybody kind of hears, we say these stats, we hear them, fatherless homes, it's deeply problematic for the children. So we need and I would say probably the Republicans are probably the most critical of fatherless homes. I think that's something we do need to spend more time getting to the bottom of. I don't think we can keep waiting for politicians to do anything. Like they said something about government intervention. We've been waiting since the Moynihan reports that they first talked about that stuff. The government intervention has not happened. The only government intervention that has actually impacted the Black community specifically as far as fathers was the crime bill, which actually took away more fathers. So if we're waiting for government intervention on behalf of Black men and fathers in the homes, I don't think we're looking in the right place. So I kind of like to take that off the table. I'm not sure why Republicans would even think that. But as far as men in the communities, Black, white, Latino, Asian, whatever you are, I think we have to take it upon ourselves because we cannot count on the government to do anything as far as this declining rate of fathers in homes, which is, I would say, marriages are down worldwide. But even without marriages, fathers in homes, that's a problem. We need more fathers to be present. So I wanted to tie that, all that long-windedness, I want to tie that into this where I'm going. So my bad, Negro. Red Lipstick Vibes had a great stream about women choosing to be single mothers now. Like, no father from the beginning. I'm choosing that. I just want that life. And JPam, JP, the aspiring matriarch, she said something a while ago that made me think, and I never heard anybody propose this before. She said, men need to invest in the lives of children that are not theirs, and without trying to have sex with that mother. So not just being like stepdad. Men need to invest in the lives of children in the communities that they're impacted by without looking for anything from that mother, just simply for the sake of doing better for the community. We need to invest in the lives of these young men. And as somebody who's adopted, what do you think about men stepping up to be stepfathers, to adopt, to be mentors, to like pour into the lives in the community? And then you can also address that clip as well. I know there's a lot, but start wherever you feel comfortable.
I mean, the clip, to me, facts are facts, right? You don't have to like the person. You don't have to agree with the person. That's what we get caught up in, and I think it's a detriment. It's like we get so caught up in, if I said it, if my favorite person said it, I agree with it, even if you don't agree with it. But if my least favorite person say it, it is true. I don't agree with it because I don't. That's silly, right? Because truth is going to come from all sorts of directions. Is what you do with it. But I definitely think men need to do that, because like me and you kind of came to a conclusion that role brings out the man in us, right? It makes us step up to a whole nother level, right? Because if you look at the 60s and even into the 30s and the 40s, man, Black men were getting lynched, and Malcolm X's father was on a train track, right? They tied him up, and they wouldn't stop what they were doing. It was a strength in them. Martin Luther King, it was a strength in him, like that a lot of us just don't have or didn't get experience because we kind of let it go. We saw that obstacle and ran, right? And we think that we value our we Hey, what's up, Bob? I let him go beginning of the year, my new year. So yeah, but we let things go way too soon. We're premature. We're microwave generation. So because I see a lot of guys out here, 19, 20, who just had their little baby, and and you probably seen this, Rashawn, is when they have them, they loving, and they say that black fathers aren't this and that, but that, man, you see a guy with his little baby, he hugging her, and it's the responsibilities of life that they tend to escape from, not necessarily that child, and it affects the child, but sometimes we escape from that responsibility. But when they say don't run from the pain, run towards it, right? You ever heard that before? You don't know about hip hop, man.
I don't know that line, but I've heard that again. Everybody espouses that. Jordan Peterson talks about that all the time.
So we have to do that because that's where our strength lies, right? So we have to step in. If I see a little boy on the corner, like you step up to the plate and you say, "Hey, you need a haircut? Where your mom at? You at the park crying by yourself. Hey, put that down or put this down," and it begins to develop a strength in you because you know that you are responsible for something outside of yourself. I think that's where our strength really come from in life, when we know we're responsible for something. Because us, if we ain't trying to, if it ain't something in gold, we'll let the hair grow on our face. We'll wear the same underwear 20 days in a row. Hey, I know Brother Clarence is in the
they coming for you. They
trolling.
Interview shirt on. What's up, man? Professor with the nerd pencil pocket. They playing you. They playing you. They playing you.
I would have told you, Brother Clarence, but you'll never answer my calls anyway. So I know you. And maybe if I said my name was Bolo, you would have answered it and you would knew. Get out of here. But yeah, I got my little. Hey man, is it okay for a brother to better his life? Get a little something. Set an example. But anyway, back to the host. Brother Rashawn. See, we matching, right?
That was
man, they
funny,
didn't make me forget what we was talking about, but
we talking about running from responsibility.
Yeah, we can't run from it. That's what makes us. That's why the drug abuse is so high in our community. The weed smoke, I'm like, they smoking back to back to back to back. Bro, just fight that challenge. And being that I have a certain type of job of prestige, I have to deal with employees that don't have the mindset that, hey, I have to put my head down sometimes and just do what I need to do. And when that's missing, you get a lot of people who want to run away from responsibility. But yeah, these guys are giving me the business.
Yeah, they're giving it to you. Nah, but you're absolutely right. It's funny that there's something that you said in there about loving the baby. It's cute, it's adorable, but then running from that responsibility. That's going to come back up because there's something I pulled when we get to the 5 statements, some things that 5 things that we need from fathers. When we get to that, that's going to come back up. And I'm so glad you said that, man, because I love how stuff connects. I do want to play this last video because this is a different type of fatherhood I'm going to ask you about. I'm going to ask you about how it relates to you, how you find this, how you like spirituality, how you like live faith, or how you find faith, how you chose faith, that kind of thing. But it does, that kind of fatherhood, everybody talks about Heavenly Father. It does have an impact on our lives, even if a lot of people don't believe in it. I do want to play this clip and then we'll talk about this.
According to the Mayo Clinic, most studies have shown that religious involvement and spirituality are associated with better health outcomes. That includes greater longevity, coping skills, and health-related quality of life, even during terminal illness. Also, less anxiety, depression, and suicide. And several studies have shown that addressing the spiritual needs of patients can actually enhance recovery from illness. Existential questions that can't be answered by medical professionals often accompany seeking medical care. This is particularly true for those with more traumatic or chronic conditions. Thus, when seeking answers to questions like, why me? Or what's the meaning of this? People often look outside traditional health settings, including religion, for answers. It's natural behavior for humans to turn to faith and belief systems when they touch the healthcare system. Now, we just need the care system and the research community to integrate the growing body of knowledge into the patient experience and the continuum of care. A primary reason for the lack of institutional knowledge in this area of study is that as the centuries have progressed, scholars in fields like medicine, public health, sociology, spirituality, religion, economics, law, they've all gone to distinct silos. Subsequently, there is a growing body of research. It just exists in disparate fields with little implication about the overlap. There's also a lot of contention about definitions of terms like religious and spiritual, making it difficult to standardize and impossible to randomize studies. That said, the lack of knowledge linking religious behavior and health is fascinating, given that healthcare is deeply rooted in institutions. In fact, it was religious organizations that built many of the first hospitals, and clergy, offsetting their low wages, were often medical providers. This is true in the Middle East and in the American colonies. And a lot of their work included focus on mental health, with both good and bad outcomes. However, as time passed, the link between religion and healthcare has slowly fallen to the wayside because of strict clinical practices and medical protocols. But given how much we're learning about the influence of social, emotional aspects of life and their impact on health, it's about time that religion and medical communities start to talk. So here are a few things you might find interesting about religion and health. 80% of research on spirituality and religiousness focuses on mental health. It's because most associations with faith are related to how one thinks about the world around them and their role in it. So words like hope, optimism, trust, purpose, all of these things are shown to boost mental health. Now, while mental and physical health are intricately intertwined, the physical manifestations of spirituality and religion are often indirect. What this means is that our belief system drives the way we think and behave, which in turn impacts our health-related actions. For example, people with greater depression and anxiety have more physical health problems. And in turn, worse mental health and physical health lead to a lower quality of health and life expectancy. Caring for one's physical body is emphasized in many faiths. This leads many individuals to actually take better care of their bodies by abstaining from drinking or prioritizing meditation, or just not taking part in activities that may have negative consequences on the body. But there's a chasm between doctors and patients. A 2018 survey of American physicians and patients suggests that about 64% of physicians believe in the existence of God or a higher power, and more than 90% of patients claim they do. This is consistent with a Pew study that was conducted and showed 90% of Americans believe in a higher power. In contrast, 25% of physicians said they're uncertain. While many in the medical community may think it therefore inappropriate to ask patients about beliefs and faith, patients actually disagree. One study concluded that 77% of patients thought physicians should consider a patient's spiritual needs. More specifically, 48% welcomed their physician to pray with them, and another 37% wanted physicians to discuss religious beliefs with them while making health-related decisions. So no matter where you stand on religion or faith or spirituality, it's clear that what you believe, and even what your physician believes, can have a huge impact on your health.
I brought that in because there has been quite a bit of study that's happened where positive outcomes are mapped due to faith and belief. And a lot of people believe in God the Father, Heavenly Father, however you phrase it. If you want to believe God's a woman, that's fine. But for the sake of this conversation, we're going with God the Father or Heavenly Father. Dadication. That relationship there has positive health and physical outcomes. I disagree with every single thing that woman said. But listen, with that relationship, that correlation between health outcomes and we know this, like the placebo effect in science and medicine, they talk about the placebo effect, which is, I believe this medicine is going to work even though there's no medication in it, and it works. That's a faith, that's a belief. So too, faith in God also does have positive correlations, like that lady said. As far as fatherhood, how does faith and spirituality come into it? Do you think that's important? Just take us down that path, how you feel with that.
Yeah, actually, I agree with a lot of what that woman said. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Once again, you a hellified finder, and you be studying this, and I just want to be on your. You just send me some of these videos when you ain't even doing the show, yeah, I saw a lot of truth in it, and it helps me out a lot knowing that it's out of my control, because a lot of times we sit down and we believe that everything in this universe is up to us. Everything, most of it is, but it's a lot of things that's outside of our powers. Like certain things, when it gets going, it's the way of the world. It's something that's pushing us, right? I believe all of us believe that to a certain degree. It may not be Jesus or it may not be Allah, but we understand. We believe in fate. We believe in luck. We believe in dedication. That's a form of faith. So I couldn't do it without faith, right? Because I know what it is. I've seen my father not there. I've seen my cousin's father's not there. So I couldn't do none of this without faith. I have faith that a higher power is going to help me, because I'm doing the work, right? I'm doing things, but something had to push me and propel me to do certain things, not just Jesus or Allah. So, or not just me on my own, because our logic is like, we can't do it. The facts show that it's not done, and this not. So we have to have faith in something better than us, and that's what allows me to tell them certain things, tell them to trust in me. That's how I see it. For my wife to trust in me, I want her to know that I trust in something outside of myself. It's not just me. It's a chain. Like they say, a chain of command. And my new job, they was talking about the chain of command. They keep messing with me. But yeah, it's a chain of command. So I feel like it has to be something that's above us. And you can put whatever title you want on it, but that's what epitomizes my ability to stay in there. Because sometimes, sometimes you don't feel like doing it. Sometimes you don't feel like being that voice of reason, or sometimes you don't want to hear daddy do this, or uncle, what am I gonna do, or uncle, I want the new Jordans or something like that, or you don't feel like hearing it, but it's something that guides you and pushes you to that moment. So yeah, it's a big deal. It's a big deal.
Yeah, I'm with you. I do believe faith is important for people. I've seen it, even though I'm not a Christian. I know there's a lot of other faith systems, but I know the people I grew around mostly, I'll say 95% Christian. That was their faith selection, or what they grew up in. I would say that I saw it help them cope with life, which is a positive.
Yes.
That's a positive. Like
Yes.
being able to cope with the strain of life, that's a positive. Whether it made them better people, of course, I would debate that all day. But the fact that it allowed them sometimes to get through some things that maybe they would have allowed to get them in a certain mindset, or stress out, or anything that helps people get through the day, I'm for, as long as it's not harming other people. Of course, I've gone on the record about me and Christianity, but for the record, I am a Christian, and faith is important. I disagree with this role of evidence-based medicine. That's cool. I get you, Greg. I get you. I just know that people's belief system, it changes your mindset. Because I believe in psychology, which I know Greg Bryant also does not agree with or believe in. Because I believe in psychology, I do believe that our mind, our ability to think and reason, impacts the way we feel, which impacts the way we behave. There's a connection between these three. So like she said, if I believe I'm supposed to treat my body like a temple, that affects the way I feel. Like I feel good about myself. So I may have positive self-esteem because I treat my body like a temple. And then the way I behave is going to back that up. I'm not going to put certain things into my body. I'm not going to do certain things that are going to cause me negative health outcomes. So I do believe there is like she said, an indirect link to positive outcomes for people who actually do practice a faith system. So anybody that does have that Father God relationship, I do believe there are things, even to the fact of just praying and having somebody that I feel like I can talk to. I can just anytime I'm in a moment, positive, whether it's praise or whether it's like petition, I can just talk to God. I can just talk to somebody, even if I'm by myself, alone, in a closet, in the car. I can just open up a line and speak to somebody. I know I've heard therapeutically that that's beneficial. Like, so in psychology, these things match up to me. So I don't have any problems with people who do that. Faith is the foundation of my relationship with God. That's not fair. I believe in it. I just believe it's nonsense. Touche, Greg. Touche. You believe in it and you believe it's total nonsense. I'm with you. All right. So we're going to go over to the last 5. Now, these are 5 things that I believe a father has, a person needs from a father. 5 things a person needs from a father. And I've interwoven some dedication into our dedication. And this is the part that New Growth was unaware of, because I went ahead and did some research today. I went ahead and did some research for this. And I was like, he'll appreciate this. So one of these things I believe a dad needs to, like we talked about, the greatest ability is availability. So the first thing I believe a father needs to give a child is quality time. So number 1, guys, quality time. Because I do believe we derive our worth. We derive our worth from people's choices to spend time with us. As a child, who and how people spend time with us shapes how we believe what our worth is. If somebody's always choosing something else over us, like right now, a lot of parents are choosing cell phones and being in their phone over spending time with their kid, that's a value choice. This has more of my attention than you do. So I believe the very first thing that a father could give a child is quality time. And I believe that impacts their worth. What do you think about that, New Growth? Do you believe that that's something that is essential to come from a father?
Man, it's especially in my situation because I've adopted kids that came from certain situations, not the best backgrounds, several foster homes, things of that nature. So a lot of times, especially my older daughter, she's more of hugging. Like it's always got to be a hug. It's got to be a hug. We go in the store and she just holds my arm. And sometimes it's like, well, or she's like, Daddy, can I come with you? I might just go to the store. Daddy, I want to come. Daddy, I want to. And it's like sometimes you feel like I just want to be alone to watch this or do that. But that quality time pays off because to me, it translates to trust. They really feel like I can really trust in you. So when I tell them something, it's not a distant relationship. It's like, I believe you, right? Because sometimes that time spent together develops a connection. So I think that's where the real connection comes from. Just sitting there and things that you don't want to be a part. I hate My Little Pony. I hate it. I don't like reading Dog Man, right? But my daughter loves it. So, sometime I might want to sit down and, do a little something else. But Daddy, can I read this to you? Baby, you read it to me 6 times. I want to read. Okay, go ahead. And she, in the excitement in her eyes. So when I say, baby, you're going to have to go over there when I homeschool, you're going to have to go over there and do some schoolwork now. But the other kids outside, I'm going to need you to do a little schoolwork now. Okay, right? So that quality time creates a bond to me.
What is a brony? What are bronies?
Bronies.
I don't know what that meant. But I definitely wanted to bring in, because earlier, not too long ago, you said something about men love that baby They love that baby. You know, that little cute little bundle when they first get that boy or that girl. They're like, oh man, I love that. But the responsibility mounts up and a lot of guys check out. But I was watching Dedication. And the very first one was, are you committed beyond the initial excitement? And I'm like, wow, are you committed beyond? It's great to have that party and everybody celebrating, and now everybody's got that whole what is that gender reveal? Oh, that's all fun.
Right.
And then after the birth, you got that little bundle and it's adorable, and you're trying to pick out features. Oh, this is from the mom, and look, oh, this from the that's all fun. But them sleepless nights, ain't no fun there. So part of dedication is, can you be committed beyond the initial excitement? So I got that from Dedication, from New Growth. Man, check out New Growth's channel, because again, he did a whole stream on dedication. I'm just folding it into dedication here. Dedication, he also said that again, I'm repeating this from earlier. Dedication does not start until you hit an obstacle. It can't be dedication until it's been challenged. Everyone has a plan until they are hitting the mouth. So you show your children that they have value and worth by spending time with them, even when it's inconvenient, even when it's not what you want to do.
And even when they're not getting it, you know, because my older daughter, she has classified with ADHD and, you know, a lot of things, and she wasn't reading, and it's like when you sit there over and over again and she's not, I'm not getting it, daddy, and I'm not getting it, but you stick it in there with them obstacles, and before you know it, she gets it. Oh my God, that makes you feel proud because you stood in there, but most importantly that they overcame an obstacle, and they look at you like, oh, I can do anything. You instilled that into them by your dedication. All right. So definitely,
you can definitely drop his link in the chat, and also in the description, it should be hyperlinked. So if you click on that link, if you click on where it says New Growth, it should take you to his channel. It should. Me and YouTube, or you know, I'm a little boomerish when it comes to some of this technology stuff. I don't know how, but somehow I get a little boomer sometimes. I believe that link should take you to his channel. If not, please, and they go ahead and please drop that into the chat when you can. But I thought that was great how it lined up. All of the 5 that I had lined up perfectly with your dedication. I was like, yes, yeah, okay. But anyway, I got excited when I saw that. But the next thing, I know brother Vaughn said guidance, so I'm gonna tap that into this next one. Because the next one, I believe, are life skills. I believe a father should be providing some life skills. And I believe those life skills are necessary because it gives you the confidence to be able to stand on your own as far as capability, what you're capable of doing, whether it's a little gardening, a little electrical work, fixing a car. Like thankfully I had a couple of guys in my life that showed me how to change a tire and check the oil. Like, thankfully I had a few life skills that were imparted to me by some men in my life, and thankfully I've even had some exceptional women who went the extra mile to teach me things that I didn't have a guy for. So life skills, I think, are important. And I want to bring in again another new growthism. Give me a second. That's my nephew calling. Actually, give me a second. That's my nephew. That's my guy. Let me see. Another new growthism. New Growth on his dedication stream, right? On his dedication stream. The next question he asked was, can you stand the pain? And he brought in some James Baldwin. But people who cannot suffer can never grow and can never discover who they are. And learning, that journey of learning a skill, it's hard. It's labor. It's suffering. It's not easy. It's not fun a lot of times. So I do believe that was important as far as learning life skills. You can't learn who you are unless you can learn to stand on your own in certain aspects, whether that's be tangible stuff, mental stuff, emotional stuff. You have to learn the tools to be able to stand on your own. You need those skills that you're not relying on somebody else for your emotional needs to figure this out. There's a lot of different areas of life where you need that guidance, where you need those life skills. But New Growth, what are you thinking? Again, I'm so glad I went back and watched Dedication again, because I was like, oh my God, this stuff was just perfect.
Hey man, you breaking it down to me deeper than, you know what I'm saying? I love it because, you know, I'm glad that it's coming across to another mind, especially a mind as supreme as yours, right? It's coming across and it's like it's making sense. You know, sometimes you feel like you saying what you feel, you know, but it's making sense. And it's like, wow, he gets it, right? And that's all that I really, you know what I'm saying? Sorry about that, but that's all I really my desire was, to just get something out. And that's what we have. I think that's why a lot of people have YouTube pages. It's like they, especially the people who have it for the right reason, they just want to get something out. It can get caught up in, you know, hey, how many followers I have, how many, but it's getting something out. And when I see guys like you, Brother Clarence, Vaughn, even she hide in the corner, and it's getting something out. They got so much to give, right? So I feel like the guidance, you have to give people life skills. And so many people have life skills that our society deem is not greatest life skills, but just watching your reaction right there when your nephew, you was like, that's my guy. You know what I'm saying? That's so important, man. And that's so beautiful, because that means you have purpose, and you're gonna give what you got to do to give into that person, regardless. He might can call you and say, don't call me no more, I'm mad at you.
Man, he
right?
could. He could.
Yeah. But it's like, and then he called back and say, I'm sorry. Then you might say, man, you gonna talk to me, right? I love you, right? It's hard to stand in the moments. Like you said, can you stand the pain? When you tell that person what to do and they do the opposite, right? And you still go back, oh, this, you're gonna deal with the consequences, like Peterson said, but I still love you, and you're gonna get up and work harder. I mean, because I was reading Will Smith book, I always refer to this book, and he was talking about his dad, and he had a wall in the back of his shop, and he told him and his brother in the summer, knock the wall down. So they walked down all these bricks on this brick wall and told them to build it back up again. They didn't know what they was doing. It was hot. It went through winter. It took them like a year and a half. And once they finally completed it, his dedication was uncontrollable. I mean, regardless of the good and the bad, and his father and in Will Smith, we can't doubt that man's dedication. I mean, just be with Jada, if what we seeing is life, or his dedication from the rap game, falling off, coming back, being a movie star, doing it. Dedication was taught in that moment when his dad just told him arbitrarily tear down that wall. Now y'all build it back up. He said once he completed that wall, he felt he did something. He felt like he accomplished something. So when you see I don't know how old your nephew is, but when you see him,
22.
When you see him have his, I don't know if he have any kids, he has kids, and he gets married, or he has this, and when you see that, and he gonna stand there, see, this is the faith, right? You gonna stand there at that wedding, and he gonna call you up there, right? And he gonna say, thanks to, that's what we doing it for. That's the faith that we have. That's the faith I have, and that's what's gonna make us through, because there's really no completion in life, in my opinion. Like like you said earlier.
Yeah, it's been so it's been such a fulfilling relationship. Like, even if I don't even want that, because he did that one time. He's like, you've been like a father to me. That makes me like, no, like Bree said about people running from responsibility. That like a father thing. That just, I don't like that. I'm like, I've been like an uncle to you. Like, I've been like an uncle to you. But he be like, nah, man. I'm trying to tell you, I didn't have a dad. I didn't have a dad. I didn't have another man in my life. You were that person for me, and it's hard for me to accept that. But man, I promise you, it's been the most fulfilling relationship I've had in my life. Like, that's I'm about to say that's probably the top. That's probably out of all the people. I would say that's the one that taught me how to love. Out of all the relationships, like my grandmother was special to me. Like, that was the person who loved me first. That was my grandmother. Then I would say, like, romantic, like my truest love, like the person I love, like the woman I love, that was a great one too. But I didn't until I had nephew in my life, I didn't know how to love. Like, I was a recipient of love up until that point. I didn't know how to give it without needing it back until that relationship developed. Wow. That. So that changed my whole world around. So, man, I still couldn't imagine what it would be with a kid. I can't imagine anything bigger than that dynamic in my life. But life is like a woman. It never reaches completion. That's a t-shirt. Life is like a woman. I can't. Greg, you already used your behave pass. Greg. And I saw it and they put that in the chat. No, cut it. I'm joking. You are more than welcome. Number 3 thing I believe a father needs to give is reasoning. Competence. Now, capability was the last one. This is competence, the ability to think through things. And the question that New Growth asked in his dedication stream was, is your pride more important than your progress? Don't be swayed by, this is me saying, don't be swayed by false winds of things like popularity or other people's outcomes, because that's what New Growth was talking about on that stream. He said, it's not about the prize, it's about the process. And I say your reasoning stems from your reasons. Your reasoning stems from your reasons. Your reasons drive your behavior. I would say competence happens when your why and your how, when your why and your how are in agreement or alignment. Out of alignment, good reason and bad behavior is called somebody that's conflicted. If you have good reasoning, but your behavior is poor, you're going to look conflicted. If you have bad reasoning, but your behavior is good, you're going to look irrational. So I believe you create a competent child because they can think and act in accordance with their long-term plans. That's why I call that reasoning and competence, because there's a lot of incompetent people out here. But I really appreciated New Growth's perspective on that. It's not about the prize, it's about the process. Tell us about this portion, New Growth. Tell us about that.
Man, I came up with that little saying when I was in my early 20s, and it was like a lot of things I was going through, and it was like you wanted that reward, and I understood hard work, and this, like you said, is legacy. So my grandmother wasn't my mother, but I saw the hard work she did, and she never came to fruition as society wants it, a millionaire, big home. And my grandmother never owned a home in her life, right? But she worked, and she made sure that I had something, and all the family was. And when I went, and I think like 6 months before she died, she finally came to my house. And it's like, Grandma, this is you. This is your fruition. This is you, right? And it made me realize it ain't about the prize, right? Because she never really seen the prize for herself. But the progress eventually got the prize through her grandson, right? So that's just life to me. A lot of things, we do things and we don't know when we're going to see the end. It's like sometimes you're tired of that job. Like, I know you, brother, you're a strong brother, but sometimes you tired of this, I be seeing you, and I ain't gonna tell you, hey, don't stop, but I see you, and it's like you understand it's the process, because you don't understand, you might not get the prize, like in the quintessential way, like, hey, I got 1 million followers, but when I can see something that you said and it engulfs in my soul and it impacts my daughters and it impacts their friends, and it's like that's the prize. So you might not see it in the quintessential way, but trust me, you're doing a lot, and I love it. Like this right here is the prize to me. Like when I did that, I was like, okay, a couple people watched it, but for somebody that I respect looked at it, and actually you looked at it more than once now. I know you, and I'm like, wow, he got it, and he's gonna take it and he's gonna give it to his bigger audience, and people in here are gonna take it. That's the process. The prize, I mean, because most of the times when you go through a lot of things, remember you were young at Christmas, you cry for when I was young, it was G.I. Joe's. Man, you play with the G.I. Joe for a day, and then it's done. But it was the anticipation, right? And the ability, unwrapping the present and the gift. So that's where I get it from.
Yeah, you're right, and I'm learning that, and I keep hearing, and I don't know, it could be all a lie, but I keep hearing from successful people that they make it to all these plateaus that they set for themselves, and they say they get there, and it's kind of anticlimactic. Like they get there, and it's like, okay, now what now? What do I do now? So a lot of people, even though they have these lofty goals, even the ones that make it, kind of don't know what to do once they get there, because they didn't set anything else further, or they didn't expect to get there at all. So I don't even know what to do with that, except like I'm trying to reorient my mind to enjoy processes instead of looking for, like you said, the prize, because there may not be one big grand prize. It may just be learning to embrace joy in all the little moments. You know what I'm saying? Like having conversations like this with people that I enjoy listening to, that enjoy listening to me. So like collaboration like this for me this process has to, I have to make that the prize and not look for like some million follow plaque from YouTube. Like that can't be my thing because maybe I'll never get there. I may not be there. I know I don't want to put in that much work. Like you said, I've got I'm almost 200 subs and I'm already, like you said, I already be looking tired sometimes. You know what I'm saying? So it's probably not my path, but I'm enjoying this part. I'm enjoying these conversations with people like you, with Lola, with the people in SIM and the offline stuff. Like I enjoy all of this part of it, this part of the process. And I'm not looking for any big prize at the end of it. I'm enjoying this piece. It means a lot. And it's actually changed my life for the better. And I didn't anticipate it. I did not anticipate YouTube actually becoming a major part of my life as far as helping me further augment who I am and my thought process.
And another thing about that too is sometimes we won't receive the prize, right? Sometimes I think we have been programmed to think, hey, we're gonna receive the prize or something. But like I always use an example of President Obama, right? And Jesse Jackson, a lot of these people, Jesse Jackson really was the first one to say, hey, a black man can really win. And I remember Obama won and Jesse was so salty. And I was like, bruh, that's the prize for your process. You don't have to have it, right? You can see the fulfillment of it and you can say, oh my God, this is the prize. This is what I like. Martin Luther King never saw the prize, like of us sitting here now, right? But it's like the process is what makes it. People talk about the process, not the prize. So keep it up, man. I'm proud of you, bro. I got you.
Yes.
I'm a subscriber for the duration of your time on YouTube.
Well,
Let you make fun of my shirt and I'm done.
Listen, I can't talk. We both came up here with some blue shirts with a pocket. We both came up here and looking like we wanted to put the pocket protector in. We both did it. But listen, I'm mutual respect and admiration for sure. And Brother Von Bright, I'm not sure how he got a hold of my notes. I don't know how he got a hold of my notes because now he is once again on my next point, because the next thing I think a father needs to give a child is modeling. Modeling. He says leading by example. This is also very important. Our children constantly watch us. We should definitely set good examples for them while also being down to earth. Thank you, Brother Von Brian, for once again reading my notes. Stay out of my notes, you hacker. You are a hacker. But listen, I called it modeling, and I think that modeling breeds character. I think that produces character. You're showing your character, and they take that character and they adopt aspects of it. You asked the question during dedication, can you achieve without dependencies? And this is going to be more of a stretch than the others, but bear with me. You read this from the 50th Law by Robert Greene and 50 Cent. Dependency is a habit that is so easy to acquire. We live in a culture that offers you all kinds of crutches, experts to turn to, drugs to cure any psychological unease, mild pleasures to pass time, jobs to keep you from staying underwater. But once you give in, it's like a prison you enter that you cannot ever leave. You continually look outward for help, and this severely limits your options and maneuverability when the time comes, as it inevitably does. When you must make an important decision, you have nothing inside yourself to depend on. You must move in the opposite direction. You cannot get this requisite inner strength from books, gurus, pills of any kind. It can come only from you. It is a kind of exercise you must practice on a daily basis, weaning yourself from dependencies, listening less to others' voices and more to your own, cultivating new skills. And again, that was from the 50th Law. Robert Greene, New Growth, was tapping into that during his dedication session. And I believe the reason this has to do with character for me is the part where it said, you have nothing inside yourself, because we've depended on so many external things, which is why I believe an example of character is important to come from a father. We start to learn why he did what he did through our experiences. and we internalize it. Once it's internal, we don't have to look outside of ourselves. We start weaning ourselves first off our father and our mother's instruction. We start weaning ourselves from our teachers and our mentors. We start relying on what's inside of us, because it's in vain if they poured all of their life into us and we can't operate absent them. All our sacrifices is so that they can sustain and maintain and go even further without us. Take everything I have and you add to it with what you're going to get in your lifetime. So that's why I think every journey is a unique one that must be determined from the inside, not the outside. And you are what you consistently do. You are the example for your child on how to live and maintain without seeking quick fixes or avoiding difficulties. And that, to me, is where character stems from. The process to get there is so much fun. Rashawn is testing you on your own stream. I am not testing him on his stream. I thought it was great. Listen, I thought it was an awesome stream. When I went back and listened to it again, I was like, man, and the fact that it perfectly aligned with what I was talking about, I was like, see, that was what he do. I would say God ordained, you know what I'm saying? I'm not a Christian, but I'm like, that's one of them things where like the spirit be moving. Whatever it is, be moving. Well, real serious B is in the building. But I thought that was dope. But what is your take, sir? I know that was I'm reacting to your content live with you. What was your thinking when you brought out that that Robert Greene quote, and not the dependencies, and what I'm attaching it to character and modeling?
Mm-hmm. It's kind of like what the Jordan Peterson thing was saying. It's like that father that said, you need to go out there and push yourself to another level. You need to go out there and do this, do that. And it goes back, that's what a dad is to me, He has to be that person that says, you watch a lot of the movies back in the day when the kid goes off to college and the dad kind of like, the mom's crying and he has to give him a hug. He holds it together, but he pushes him out there into the world. And he's just as sad and scared, but he knows what he instilled in that person. And it's like, at that moment, you really come to fruition as a parent. You're comfortable with letting that person go. That's why I feel like, it comes at different times, different ages. But when we know we have put all ourselves into what we dedicated ourselves to, we don't need outside reassurance. We don't need, because there's a lot of people who stand out there in the midst of everything. All of our great leaders that we respect and honor, and they broke away because in order to create change, you're going to have to do something that nobody else understands. So it's like, I love that quote. I read that book. That used to be my Bible, the 50th Law. So that right there is like, once we do that, we absolutely have faith in the higher being and in ourselves. And we have faith in the dedication that we got there, that road, that process. Yeah. So no matter, you ever been in a position where no matter, you could lose, but no matter what happened, you can regain yourself. You can recoup. That's what I basically look at it as. Like, I'm not dependent on anybody. Hey, I might quit this job. I might say, hey, I don't need this job no more. I don't like the way, I'm going to go out on my own, do something like that. I know I prepared the dedication. I know I'm going to land on my feet. So basically, that's what that means to me. Prepare our children to land on their feet, not to fall, not to fly high. Sometimes you're going to fall, but prepare them to be able to deal with adversity. You ain't got to worry about nothing.
I love it.
And Martin Luther King was a prime example of that. Like, his father had to let him go. He knew the road what may occur and what came down the line, but he knew he prepared him. He knew he was prepared to do greater things. And like Jesus told Mary, I mean, I'm not a big Bible person, but he said, let me do what I got to do. Don't, this is bigger than what you think I should be. I'm on a mission. And once we have our kids say that, you really know you raised your kid right. When you say, well, I don't really want you to do that, nephew. Say, this is how you prepared me. I'm stepping out. This is how you taught me. Let me do me. And it's scary to you. But that's it. That's the point.
Yeah, I had a few of those moments already. He's already doing better than most people in the family at a young age, man. That guy's working 2 jobs, making got an apartment downtown. I'm like, man, without college, without any
Right.
college debt. So I'm like, man, I'm glad the path he's taking. So definitely, I want to real quick shout out OG Patrice. And because you did bring it back to that challenging your children, there was this clip I saw. I'm going to bring it up. Hopefully you guys can see it. Hopefully you have already seen it, because it's like in that phone view, and I don't know how to make it bigger on YouTube, but I am going to play this. I don't know if I can make it any bigger. Let me see. Maybe. So let's see.
Yeah. No, you're not. No, you're not. I got you. We're here. I got you. Mental, David. Mental. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Mental. Look at him. Mental. Yo, check. There. Yo, mental. My leg, Jade. Damn. I got Jade. Damn, I got you. Jade. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. There you go.
So the first time, young man couldn't do it. He couldn't handle, the ice bath. It was too much for him. Brother was encouraging him and trying to keep him in there, a little tough love in there. But he was able to come back and complete the task with the encouragement and support of his father and the community around him. So I thought that was dope.
That was
I
dope.
get that video,
dope.
but I'm not doing that. Little homie was about to turn into a popsicle. Ty Libra in the building. Hello. So just on the point that you made, we sometimes gotta push the next generation to do more than maybe we were capable of, maybe sometimes more than we were willing to do. Because I would say that the challenges that the next generation is going to face are going to be greater than the ones that we face. So we may be having to ask them to take on more than we took on, simply because the times demanded. So I definitely agree with everything you were saying.
The beauty of that too was the father was in the water, right? The father wasn't on the sideline
modeling.
The father wasn't saying, I did this when I did this, right? The father was right there in the water, and the son didn't want to get out the first time because he saw his father. It just was too much at that moment. But that father, that trust, I want to be like daddy. Daddy said I can do it. I'm going to get back in there, right? Even if it had took him 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 tries, right? That's the beauty. And he looks, that second time, it looked like he was in a hot tub, right?
Yeah, didn't it?
It was like
he was comfortable.
That's so beautiful, man. And that's the thing, I don't like to look back on life with regrets, but I kind of envy that, because sometimes you think like, wow, God has his purpose, the universe, but it's like, man, if I'd have had that, woo, right? Just imagine, but it's beautiful. That's why you go harder to make sure that you do the little nuances. You can't take the half steps, right? Because you didn't have it. You got to give little things. So I just imagine Lil Rashawn,
man,
it was like, man, and not saying you're not dope now, but it's just other levels of life. But God has his purpose, right? Like you said earlier, if we'd have had that, maybe we'd have been a little complacent in saying, right.
No way to know. That's the thing. We might have been further ahead in our lives, but maybe we would have started taking our position for granted because we didn't have those challenges. I do know the challenge does breed a lot. The process is important. And like Brian said, leading by example. And the other Brian brother, never ask anything of the people you are leading that you wouldn't do yourself. Man, I love having the Brian brothers here, man. The whole family. Bring the whole Brian family in here. But listen, we are on to the last and the fifth thing that a father definitely needs to give. And for me, that is love. That fifth thing is love. And I know that's a little difficult and hard sometimes to understand how that comes from a man, how we offer it. It doesn't look the same way. You gave me 5 virtual babies. When I'm bad, DJ bad. Dime Jr. is the worst kid on this earth. But you have to give those kids love. And what I believe that love, what that fatherly love comes across in the child is validation. I believe that validates that person. I think the time and attention offers them value, but the love gives them validation. It puts that stamp on it. That's that seal of approval. Said, I'm really trying to behave. Now, don't worry about behavior. Don't worry about behaving. But the question that New Growth asked in his dedication stream was, can you remember the purpose of your dedication? That's the problem. A lot of people will get a lot of attention or acclaim, or they reach that plateau or that summit, and they forget what they were doing it for in the first place. He said, and then the people who doubted you now love you once you achieve what you were after. You'll get the clout, you'll get the fame, you get the attention, and that feels like love if you haven't had it. If you hadn't had it, all that attention, all that acceptance, all of that people propping you up and supporting you, all of that will feel like love. So you can't rest on your laurels. Do you remember the love that drove you in the first place? Don't let the attention replace your intention. Don't let the attention replace your intention. And I believe that's important for a dad, because you show your child what real love feels like, so that they don't fall victim to the temptation of all of that exploitative attention of hangers on. So I think that I love how that, again, I loved how all 5 of those correlated to what I had in my notes. I was like, oh my God, this is so perfect. But anyway, yeah, what do you think about the love aspect of father? And what do you also about love from a man? Because I found that it's people have a hard time understanding or knowing what love looks like when it comes from a man. Like the emotionality of it, it's kind of misperceived in some way.
And that's a good question, because I've struggled with that, right? I've struggled with being over masculine, right? And what I learned to do was just, the hardest thing I had to learn was just being vulnerable, right? Being very vulnerable with my wife, with my family, with with people around me. That doesn't mean I have to calm down my, a certain aspect of me. It doesn't mean I have to become, I say feminized, but I don't like to use these too many terms because that paint me in a corner. But I like to. It just taught me, hey, sometimes I get on my daughters. I'm like, yo, come on, you clean this room up, right? And then they kind of, when your dad, when a masculine voice, it's a presence that comes with that. But at the same time, I pull them over and I said, look, you sit you on the lap, and I reassure them that it's based in love, right?
Yeah.
I might have to discipline you. I might have to say that you did something wrong, or I might have to say this, but it's based in love. I'm gonna come over to you and explain. And it's just like, if everything I do for them is based in love, it makes it a lot more easy to accept. I don't sit alone in a room with regrets, because sometimes, you're going to get excited and upset as a parent, but in that moment, I'm cognitive of that. And I say, hey, you know why I said that to you? I reassured them. I said, look, I should expect more of you than you should expect of yourself, right? Because my oldest daughter plays tennis and she's getting good, right? And then I see her, she's winning, right? But she's not giving her all, and everybody's praising her. I said, look, I'm disappointed. And that head goes down because daddy was out there with her. I said, don't put your head down. You're not just trying to compete with them. You're trying to be the best you can be. I'd rather you go out there and lose and be the best you can be. And, and to dry the tears up, and I make jokes with her and just reassure that I love her, and it starts to set in. But sometimes us as parents, and as a child, the argument came with I got spankings back in the day, right? So the spankings would come, and you would just sit in the bedroom and and you would develop feeling like, I hate her, and she why'd you be, and it never would be talked about. Like, it was so easy to give the discipline, but so hard to say, you know what, I love you, right?
Yeah.
You such a pretty, you smart. I'm so proud of you. I looked at you over the day. You getting bigger, and let me take pictures of you and look. I tell everybody about you in my, I got your picture on my phone. It's hard. It's a lot of times we have been desensitized, especially as men, to think that that's soft.
Mm-hmm.
That's the hardest thing you could do, So when we do that, it makes it a lot more easier And when you make mistakes, they know it was rooted in love. So I'm just learning that I can't be so caught up in myself or caught up in somebody else saying, "Oh, you're a good father," right?
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes I'm like, I could have did more. I could have did this. So just learning to be vulnerable. And it's, as you get used to it, you start to say, okay, I understand who I am. So I'm just learning that, man. We getting older, and they need to see that in us, right? So, from your perspective, how do you feel about that situation?
Man, first of all, your situation, I think that's an amazing thing. Man, let me shout out to Godless Sewing. Thank you for being in the building. Man, I wish I'd had a parent like that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you're not applying yourself 100%, which I got plenty of that. I got plenty of the criticism, but also being able to temper it with love at the same time. I only had my mother, but I know she would be willing to admit that she had a hard time, like Iyanla talked about earlier, being able to switch between the tenderness and the nurturing, and also the I know you can do more. Like I see greatness in you. Like, although she might have given me the one hand, like Iyanla called the good father, I lacked on the good mother side. So I got a lot of the hyper criticism and did not get as much of the nurturing to actually make me believe the criticism. You know what I'm saying? Like the undergirding. So I mean, I think that's dope. That I wish I'd had that dynamic when I was coming up. I don't know what it would have meant, but I think I would preferred that dual approach of both the firm hand and the soft hand. That sounds amazing. I think that's important. I think it's important to be able to operate in both domains for each parent, like the father and the mother. And if it's two mothers, if it's two, I don't even care if there are two parents. I think even if it's a single parent, I think being able to operate in both domains is important. And I think so many of us have accepted, like Yella said earlier, about accepting that a parent has to live in one role, that assumption. I think that's problematic. I think being a single mother thinking she has to be the father is problematic, because you can be the parent and you can offer both kindness and correction. But which I think a lot of people have crossed into is trying to be friends. And like, I think the kindness has become niceness. You know, like I think there's a lot of muddling. I'm not sure how I want to say it, but there's a lot of graying of the water. There's too much crossover and blending of different dynamics other than the mother and the father role. I think too many people are trying to be like friends, sister, brothers. I think though that the firmness to be able to call to correction, I believe you can do better. I can call greatness out of you. I want to see more. I see that you're not at your fullest potential. That's necessary. And I know that would typically be attributed to the father role. But also that, you know what, I see your tears and I'm going to wipe your tears away. And I want to make it, let's lighten the mood. I think both of those are so essential. That's a skill. And you had to have picked that up from somewhere as well. To even give it, you had to have it. So I think that's an important lesson that a lot of us need to. I think most of my people here, everybody has like a balanced approach, but I think a lot of society is lacking. And whatever took your process and journey that got you to that point with your daughter is what I wish a lot more people had, but I don't think the culture and society allows for it. You know what I'm saying? So I think it saddens me that more people don't get that dual approach there. Like, I pray, I wish more people got that, because man, that's amazing that you would even do that, because a lot of people would be like, okay, that's good enough, or they might not even watch their kid. Most parents wouldn't even know that their child was great at tennis because they're never making the games. They're not even getting to the games. That's an activity. That's her recreation. Okay, you go do that. I'm gonna go do something else. Or if I'm present, I'm on my phone the entire time. But you're watching with such a discerning eye that you can see that she's not, that she's not at her max potential. She's not giving full effort. And then the willing to confront her in opposition to everybody that's giving her all the praise for her wins. You're saying something to the contrary of what everybody else is saying. You're speaking against the world. Everybody's saying I'm great. I got all these wins. My dub column is stacking up. Dad, what are you talking about? So to be able to speak against what would be the perceived reality, that takes foresight and understanding. So I mean, all of that to me is extremely dope and valuable, and I'm thankful that you're in your daughter's life. Because all that right there was amazing.
Yeah, man.
So yeah,
it's just
I think journey, those are the 5 things. Go ahead.
It's just a journey. Just you know, and like you said earlier, it's a lot of things. You know, I'm an only child, so I don't know if you had that aspect, but I sat back and swallowed a lot of things, and it kept me thinking of what I wish would have happened. Or, you know, I still remember things like I remember I would do things, you know, and I understand it was the hard work, like you said, with your mother. She had to do a lot. You know, they had to do a lot, but it was just like, wow, Mom, I got 100 on my spelling test. Right. I don't want nothing to just say, good job, baby. You know, just hug me. My mother was never an affectionate person. So those things that I lacked, I know I had to implement, but at the same time, I knew I couldn't overcompensate, right? Because I learned that from my grandmother. My grandmother had a tough childhood. So when she had babies, she overcompensated, right? She overcompensated in the kids, which made it a bad thing. So yeah, man, it's just life is about learning lessons and growing from it. It's not about pride. It's not about, like I always was taught that leadership is the highest form of sacrifice, right? The best leaders are the best, you know, servants. A leader is a servant. I have to give to somebody else. I have to do certain things. I can't sit up there and say I'm a leader, so I'm just going to tell people what to do. I'm going to have to sacrifice. I'm going to have to go down there and show you how to do it. I'm going to have to go over there and help out. Or I'm going to have to take criticism from you. I'm going to have to break out of what I think should go if the whole team says, hey, we want to try it this way. So.
No, I think that's dope. Now, listen, I do have to get ready to wrap up. I have to make an unexpected run, but Negro, I promise you, I'm so thankful that you said yes when I asked you to do this.
Man.
I'm so glad you came. I enjoyed our conversation, and I enjoy your content. So again, I want to encourage you to put more out there for us. Because again, you don't make it long like me. You don't do a lot of live stream. You do some digestible content in 5 to 15 minute increments. I appreciate the change of pace. So please get back to it. We got Busy in the building. Hello. And we got Summer Mince Pies in the building. Hello from the UK. Love from the UK. Appreciate both of y'all. I want to offer you the opportunity because I believe we presented 5 videos and some content on fatherhood from different aspects. And then we brought 5 more into the, and I enjoy doing this with you. But I want you to take some time and give us like some closing thoughts, some final thoughts on like fatherhood, how you see it going forward. Because I wanted to keep it positive. I didn't want to sit there and, you know, Black fathers are absent. I didn't want to keep doing that all day.
Right.
And I don't think we did any of that today. I mean, we played that one Candace clip.
Right.
Other than that, though, I think everything's been positive. But what if you could give us some thoughts? I'm gonna give you the big face, Ken, but give us some thoughts if you don't mind.
First of all, I want to thank you so much, man, for, you know, reaching out to me. I'm really an introvert, so a lot of this stuff that I did was just, I had a lot of buildup in me, and I stopped doing it for a while because I found myself not studying as much as I did, so I needed to get back into the lab and have something present to y'all, you know. But so forth as fathers, man, if you got a child out there, if you got a young person in your community or something like that needs an encouragement as a man, be there. You know, say, hey, how you doing? Talk to the mother, you know, not from wanting anything in return. Just talk and say, hey, how can I help out? Or your boy looks, you know, just that encouragement to the mother. Just the encouragement to the mother saying, hey, that boy is really good at that. He should, you know, and these things motivate the mother to be a greater influence in a child mouth. Because a lot of times we need men in our community to show that, hey, it's value in us. So it's value in us. So once we do that, I think it'll get a lot better. So, man, I appreciate you talking about that. And much respect to all the dads, the step-in dads, the adopted dads, the uncle dads, I ain't gonna say mama dads, the mothers, right? I appreciate all of y'all, man, and the kids, regardless if you think so or not, they're watching. They're watching. So keep it up. Shout out to my girl N.A. We waiting on that children book to come, for real. My daughters is telling when it's coming, daddy. So shout out to B9, hold it down in DC, a former teacher. See, everybody played their part, man. I really love the community and what you have here, Arshawn, man. Much respect.
Man, definitely appreciate you, man. Salute to B9, a teacher in the building, master teacher over there. That's what we're gonna give you. You keep ducking the GOAT when I keep calling you the GOAT. You don't want to be the GOAT, okay? Master teacher. That's your new title then. Since you don't want to be the GOAT, you the master teacher. Now deal with that. All right, but now I really appreciate you coming through. I enjoy your insights and your content, and again, I really want to have more conversations like this in the future. So y'all always come at the end. I know it's how cute. You got to hit that bell. You got to get that notification. But I want to say salute to all the fathers. Happy Father's Day. I know that's coming this Sunday. So happy Father's Day to all of you. Happy Father's Day to you, New Growth. This was our dedication to all of you fathers, whatever role that your fatherhood is shaping. Like you said, the uncles, the adopteds, any of that. Even if it's just the only man that's in some young person's life. You're that example, and you're taking that on. You're taking that responsibility. You're embracing that sacrifice. I appreciate all of y'all, because from somebody that did not have it, I really am thankful for those that do. I'm thankful for those that do. I'm thankful for those that play those roles in men's lives and women's lives, because we do need to see positive examples of men. We do need to see those fathers. We need them as teachers. We need them in the homes. We need both the man and the woman around as much as possible, showing us good examples of how to be and how to live and how to survive and thrive. All of that's necessary. All of it's necessary. And I think we're seeing what happens when it's not there. I think what we're seeing today is evidence of what happens when the opposite happens, when people aren't around, when they're not getting the positive examples. Even if they're present, they're not getting positive examples. So shout out to all those who are being positive examples. One of my favorite examples around, shout out to Mr. He Said over there, Harris Tribe Media Group. Mr. He Said, love in abundance, because as far as like when I see a married couple that are both out here streaming, I just enjoy their dynamic so much. I always shout them out because, man, if I had to have a dad, if I had to just pick a dude off YouTube to be my father, it'd probably been Mr. He Said. So, but now that I know the New Growth, because I didn't know about him being an adopted father, I got a second imaginary father I can pluck out. If I had one, somebody that's as tempered and kind as New Growth and insightful, that would have been a blessing too. I mean, I don't know, somebody that did not have a father. I mean, almost anything would have been a blessing. But there are some smart, kind, thoughtful, strong men out here in the space, and hopefully we're giving them all the shine and recognition that they deserve. Y'all made me so proud to know y'all. Let's keep growing and grinding. All right, everybody, I appreciate you. New Growth, I appreciate you one last time. Hope y'all have a good rest of your evening. I am out of here. We're gonna end with Umar today. We're gonna end with some Umar.
Who the fuck are you? Excuse me. I only debate my equals. All others I teach.
We know the hundreds and fifties, let's spread it. I'm with this shit, so let's get it. Killing it, leaving that body, no medics. Sound like I'm Lenny Kravitz.
You have cooned so bad, my brother, that they damn near need to put your face in the dictionary next to the word coon. And I don't mean no disrespect, my brother. White man play you like he play Sega. He play you, this is you. He ain't even got to be in the hood. He got this. He played Negroes like this. But they not speaking up against your oppression. I wish another coon, boot-licking, shut-jiving Uncle Tom will get in my face talking about we need to be patient. We gotta sweat. Y'all don't want to sweat. Y'all don't want to sweat. Y'all just want to be comfortable.
It's none of your concern. You don't have the right to ask me where I've been. You don't have the right to know what I was doing. You messed up, and I took a break. And guess what? The next time you mess up, I'm going to take another break.